Hello, viewers. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Aram Says Lead Kindly. Please be aware that in this episode we will be discussing the sensitive topic of sexual assault. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and in keeping with this topic, today we have invited Lisa Blanchard, who has dedicated her life to address one aspect of this issue, namely, helping victims of sexual assault reclaim their dignity. Lisa is the executive director and founder of a nonprofit known as the Grateful Garment Project. The Grateful Garment Project provides victims of sexual violence the clothing and other resources they need to reclaim their dignity and begin the healing process. This project, that started in 2011 in one hospital in Silicon Valley, has now expanded to over 103 agencies and organizations all over California. In the past, Aramsai has partnered with the Grateful Garment Project to deliver essential supplies that provided immediate support to over 200 victims of sexual assault. Thank you for joining us today, Lisa. And
Thank you for having me.
sure, let us start. Could you please, by telling us more about the Grateful Garment Project?
Sure. So the Grateful Garment Project is a nonprofit organization whose whole purpose is to help restore dignity to people who have had it stolen through some form of sexual violence.
Mhm.
This includes child sexual abuse, sexual assault, human sexual trafficking, and commercially sexually exploited children, children that are being sold for sex and pornography. And that is a big mouthful. We started with one program, one clothing closet, one program, and now Grateful Garment has expanded to have 6 programs that work all along the healing process of somebody who's been sexually violated.
So, for people who may not be aware, how would you explain a clothing closet? Like what is that resource? Where is it
Sure.
located? Yeah.
So the basis on which I founded Grateful Garment, and let me just first say that it was never the plan to start a nonprofit. Grateful Garment Project started as my graduation project for my undergraduate degree.
Okay.
And I'd heard that in my community, I live here in San Jose. In my community, when people are sexually assaulted, they're given the opportunity to go and have the forensic exam we know of as a rape kit. And when somebody makes the choice to go through this process, it's a very detailed exam. They open up a sheet on the ground, you step onto the sheet, and you begin removing your articles of clothing one at a time. And they bag and they tag each article of clothing for evidence,
Right.
to see if there's, DNA, fingerprints, bodily fluids, anything like that. So when you're all done, you're standing on the sheet and you're completely naked. And then you go through a forensic exam where they examine every centimeter of your body to look for evidence or injury or a damage. There are certain injuries that could be really problematic, like 24 to 48 hours if they're not addressed. Like, for example, if somebody's choked. And so when you're all done with this very lengthy but highly necessary examination, what are you going to wear home? You've given up all your clothes. Right. And so what we do, and this is the original program of Grateful Garment, we establish clothing closets at the place where they do these exams. Or if there's one that already exists, we fully stock it and make sure it remains fully stocked. And we stock with every size between like a 2 toddler, a little child, to 4 or 5X adult. So no matter what age, shape, size, gender you are, there are always brand new resources for people.
Right. Yeah. Coming to think of it, fresh clothes, I think, are probably what victim needs at that point, right? That's what they need the most.
That's
And
really what.
I don't think hospitals or the law enforcement are designed to provide that.
No, it's considered not essential, unfortunately.
Right.
What happens if there are not clothes available, then people are given like paper hospital gowns or paper scrubs. It's kind of like wearing a napkin home, if you think about it. In my mind, it's like adding insult to injury. Right. The thing is the nurses and the advocates and the people that are helping the person when they go through the forensic exam process, they're doing the best they can within the parameters of what's available to them. And the thing is, clothes are just not considered essential. So Grateful Garment helps pick up that slack. Prior to Grateful Garment existing, many times it was the nurses and the advocates that were buying the resources out of their own pocket, because, you know, no healthy, well-adjusted person could look at, you know, people that have been brutalized by a crime and not feel compassionate, not want to provide resources. The one other thing I want to say is that all of the clothing and the resources that Grateful Garment provides are new. They have to be new because they're given out in a medical environment. So they fall under California Health Code rules and regulations. And it is, I mean, you think about it, you've just been through this horrible experience. You go through the forensic exam. I would want to clean up. I'd want to rub my body with steel wool. I'd want something to put on that's soft and comfortable. I would, I'm going to be given a bunch of medication in that process so I don't end up with STDs or other horrible things. And so we also provide snacks and water so that people can take this medication during that process.
Yeah, exactly. When I was looking at the website, the gratefulgarment.org website, I saw that there's a page on dignity kits. You call them dignity kits, right?
Yes.
These dignity kits, which have all these resources to help the victims.
You know, a question I get a lot from people is, what can I do to support the work of Grateful Garment? And obviously, the biggest thing we could do to support the work of Grateful Garment is to talk about sexual violence. Because, I mean, surefire way to shut down any dinner party is to walk in and say, hey, let's talk about rape, you know, like the whole room contracts. But the other thing is that people could support our work because we are a completely donor-funded organization. We don't receive any government monies. So people can support our work by volunteering, they could donate resources, and they could donate new tangible items. And so dignity kits are examples of what people could put together, groups and clubs, where if they want to do a project, they can put together things that are really going to have a greater impact. And there's also another brochure that you will be able to find that talks about all the different types of resources that are necessary for people that are either have just been assaulted, or perhaps maybe the assault took place at home, or they're homeless, or they've been trafficked, and they're heading to a safe house or a shelter. And they're going to need more than one set of resources to get home. They're going to probably need resources for like 3 days. And so that both of those brochures are great indicators on how people can support the work we do.
Okay. So on average, like how many victims do these kits help? Do you have any numbers you can share?
That's a great question. People are always surprised when I tell them how much sexual violence is taking place around them. The resources that Grateful Garment Project provides helps somewhere between 25 to 50 people every single day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, through our 6 programs that we have. And so it's happening a lot more than people realize, how much sexual violence has taken place. Here in California, Grateful Garment is a California nonprofit. Your organization is a California nonprofit. In California, 3 of the top 10 locations for human sexual trafficking exist here in the state. And we also have the #1 location for human sexual trafficking, which is the San Francisco Bay Area. And so it's big business, unfortunately, you know, the buying and selling of people. And it's also despicable in my mind that anybody would consider such.
Yeah, and I think another fact most people might not realize, and which I also surprised myself, like I did not know that before, was that these items are in all sizes and genders are necessary, since sexual violence can happen to anybody. So that was one fact I read on your website, and I thought definitely needs to be highlighted.
You know, by the time women are my age, 3/4 of them have been sexually violated or harassed in some way in their life. 3/4 of them. By the time men are my age, half of them have been sexually violated or harassed in some way. For men, many times it's when they're younger, when they're boys, children, but not always. Not always. Men are less likely to report, which is very tragic. They're wholly underrepresented in this realm. But the thing is that sexual violence for anybody is devastating. Men, it becomes really problematic. Oftentimes they act out in anger. So much of a man's identity is in his ability to be a protector. And when that is threatened and challenged, it can really be damaging to that person.
Yeah, so actually sexual assault is quite prevalent. It's just that it doesn't get reported and people are not aware about it, right?
And Grateful Garment Project endeavors in every day to spread the word, not only about the work we're doing, but create awareness around sexual violence and get people involved. Like I said earlier, the greatest way people can help the mission of Grateful Garment and help reduce sexual violence in our community is to talk about it. So many cultures, it is unacceptable to talk about. It's like a forbidden topic. And that forbiddenness enables it to really flourish, to go unchecked, right? If we were really talking about all of it, if people were talking and saying, oh, this happened to me, this person did this, or, they come forward and get counseling, then it really changes the trajectory in a significant way.
Actually, that brings me to my next point. So if we are or somebody we know has unfortunately experienced this incident, what is the best way to speak out, or what are some resources available for victims?
Great question. Thank you. Well, first and foremost, let me address the fact that sexual violence is not about sex. It's about, I'm going to control you. I'm going to take your power. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to humiliate you. That's what it's really about. And so when somebody we know or love has been sexually violated, the first thing you want to do is not continue to take their power away by saying, you should do this or you should do that, right? The best way to do is say, hey, these are the options available. You could call the police, you could go to the hospital, you could talk to a counselor, you could call a hotline, you could talk to your doctor. There's a myriad of things that are choices available. And so laying out their choices and allowing them to choose is kind of starting the process of helping them regain their power, because it is in their choice that they will find their power.
Right.
And so first and foremost, don't say, oh, you should do this or you should do that, or what were you wearing, or anything that's going to blame the victim. Because what I can tell you is that it doesn't matter what they were doing or what they were wearing or where they were. Nobody has a right to take someone's power, to humiliate them, to hurt them, to shame them. It's just not okay. And so talk to them about it, encourage them, lay out the options, learn more about what the options are, encourage them if they're interested to get help, but don't, force the issue. It's the biggest thing that people can do. And then get involved in the work. Talk about Grateful Garment, talk about the subject. Let's move it from a taboo thing we don't discuss to something that we do discuss, because I believe it's possible to live in a world where sexual violence is the exception and not the rule. But we're not there. We're nowhere near there. It's really far. The way to get there is by talking about it and by getting people back for the counseling and the therapy they need to improve their trajectory in life.
So one of the objectives of the community engagement team in RMSA is to help our members and volunteers stay engaged in community service. So you did mention that volunteers can help prepare those kits, and so besides donating money, what are the other volunteering opportunities that are available?
Sure. That's a great question. Well, at Grateful Garment, a majority of volunteers help achieve our mission, help us with the resources that are coming in and going out. So you can volunteer. We have volunteer opportunities Monday through Friday, kind of during the business day when we're open. And
Okay.
then one Saturday a month, the second Saturday of every month, Grateful Garment Project is open so that people can come and volunteer and support our work. We are also actively recruiting for our board of directors, which is also a volunteer-based entity. And so if this is a subject that really moves you, then you could get involved in a greater way. There's also other opportunities where you don't even have to leave home. For example, during Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we're having a virtual walk for dignity. You can walk on your treadmill, you can walk in your neighborhood, you can walk anywhere during the month of April and help create awareness and cultivate resources for Grateful Garment. And that's something anybody can do anywhere. You just got to walk 1 mile and get one person to sponsor you, and you're successful in that.
Oh, okay.
If you belong to other organizations, you can invite us to come and talk and share. We're always looking to partner with organizations to create community outreach events. There's just pretty much, you could turn a direction 360 at Grateful Garment, toss a stone and find another way that an individual can help us achieve our mission and get the word out.
Those are some, very nice suggestions. I'm sure some of our viewers will definitely be inspired to try some of those suggestions you gave.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. And this actually brings me to one of the last questions. Actually, the last question. So at Lead Kindly, this series, our idea is to spotlight community leaders like you and draw inspiration from your experiences, from your story. So what we would like to know is, like, how did you get started in community service? Not this project specifically, in general. But how would you inspire more people, young and old, to give to the community?
Thank you for that question. Good question. So I'm pretty sure I came out of the womb of fundraiser. I have always, my father was a military officer. And so in the military, you're constantly getting this model of community engagement, volunteerism. It's really important. And then my mom was also really engaged in the community. So she was a really strong example. I can remember from a very early age, I went around my neighborhood collecting change for the Jerry Lewis telethon when I was very young, right? So I think that community spirit was modeled for me by my parents, but also I as an individual picked it up and carried it on. I think it's really important. We are responsible for ensuring, not only the safety of our family and our children, all that stuff, but our community. These are our neighbors, these are our friends, these are people that matter to us. And so being engaged in our community and supporting it in whatever way calls to you or is necessary is essential. And how at Grateful Garment and me as an individual support that is I belong to other community organizations. I'm a co-president of a West Valley Federated Women's Club, which is part of California Federated Women's Clubs, which is the oldest organization in the United States, service organization. Also a member of Kiwanis. But more importantly, at Grateful Garment, we make internships available for students. We are on me personally, I'm forever available for students to interview for class projects or different things. I just earlier today was working with 3 high school students who were working on a project for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. What I'd like to do is foster future generations of advocates, right? People that will come behind the work that I'm doing and pick up the mantle. If we don't make, if in my lifetime or in my work lifetime, if I'm not able to make sexual violence the exception, I want to foster the people that are coming behind me so that they can make sure it happens. And so I am a huge proponent of community activism and volunteerism. And I know that volunteers literally change the world.
Correct. Yes, they do. Yeah. So thank you, Lisa, for your inspiring words.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you for spreading the awareness about sexual assault. And most of all, thanks for all the work that you and your project do for helping victims of sexual assault when they need it the most.
Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to come and share with your audience and all the people involved with Ramsay and the mission of Grateful Garment. It's Ramsay Grateful Garment Partnership has been really wonderful since pretty much the beginning of both of our organizations.
Yeah.
And the work that both organizations do is essential and necessary. So I'm not only grateful for this opportunity to share with you guys, but I'm also really grateful for the partnership I'm having here. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa. And I'm also looking forward to, not only me, I'm sure all of RMSI looking forward to partnering with Grateful Garment in the future. And
Yes.
to our viewers, I would request you to go to gratefulgarment.org to find opportunities to volunteer for the Grateful Garment Project and to spread awareness about sexual assault. Thank you for joining us here today, and please join us again for the next episode of Lead Kindly.
Thank you.